Yeah, it's under contract. I need to get it into Jen today. Yeah, but it's under contract.
Very good, very good, nice.
Okay.
We never had these problems before John was here, did we?
Somebody's got some meat, there you
There
go.
it is.
Oh, sorry, did I steal your seat?
Yeah, it's a little Halloweenish sounding.
It's almost that time, as Angela reminded us.
I know.
You got Halloween on the brain.
All right, Kathy, you're live. You're recording.
All right. Well, for a minute, I could see everybody on the big screen in the office, and now that's gone.
I had to stop the video because of the
Turn the video on of.
Yeah, it's
Especially that whole
There it is. And then maybe mute that one, I guess, possibly. I don't know. Somebody's needs to be on so I can hear something, but.
Can you hear now?
everybody else- Yeah, I can hear now. No reverb going on there. Hello, hello.
Yep.
Oh, because those two last
Yep.
ones are too close.
That's good.
You think?
Right now it's good.
All right.
Somebody's lost the picture, but I think it'll come back. Okay, there we go. Now it's on. All right, so everybody had a great weekend. Curtis, you had a happy birthday weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
Lots of quality checks.
Many.
Very good. I'm glad you're here today. I hear Adrian. I heard Adrian's voice. Adrian. Welcome, welcome. Who else is here? Paula.
I'm
I
here.
see Paula. I see Kayla.
Camera.
T Hill's
Mel, is that Doug in the way back? Or is that Curtis?
Did she say, is that a dog? Did she say, is that a dog in the back?
That's Adrian.
Oh.
That's Adrian. The sun's coming in. Sorry, Adrian. Is it up again or what?
My hair a little.
Yeah, all I can see is bright sunshine in an outline there. Tamara, does that look like you? Is that Tamara?
Yep.
All righty, guys. So Kendall, is Shelly coming at 10 o'clock?
She's here.
Okay. So I just wanted to get a couple of things going before she shows up, and also start thinking about any of our survey questions or recent issues we've had with surveys. So hopefully you guys have a few things in your pocket that we can throw at Shelly and get some extra learning besides the basics that she might be teaching us. I know we definitely have some survey stuff come up recently. Also wanted to talk about, just real quick recap, call night. So we had a few people show up for that. We had some successes, even though everybody was muddling through the first time. Anybody have any follow-up to some of the calls that you made last week? John, you can talk about some of that. Paul, I think you had some success.
I had a listing appointment from Paul Knight. I met with them on Friday. They said they're going to use me. They're not quite ready, but they're selling about a $400,000 $600,000 villa. So I picked up about $1 million from Paul Knight. So, and I got another listing appointment with another person. I got 2 people set up on what do you call them? Searches.
Probably didn't somebody press your brake button.
So it was good. I'm glad I did it. Worked out really well for me.
Good.
I was with them on Friday for like 3 hours on there. I enjoyed this couple. So super nice couple. And a really enjoyable visit with them too. Kind of got to know them. So it was fun.
Is that any better? Is that any better?
Yeah, that's better. I might just need to use phone audio and not the audio one.
I think I got it. I just found it. I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Who else had any luck with call night or anything to say about it?
Did we enjoy it? Do we think it was good? Yeah. I guess so too. I mean, the first one, like Kathy said, we kind of muddle through it a little bit and fumble through it, but just getting that vernacular down and just get comfortable with it. Would everyone be up for a follow-up to? Sure. Awesome. Love to hear that.
All right, and then one other quick thing, I'm talking over you, stop me because I can't hear perfectly. I went ahead and grabbed at the last minute last week, I grabbed a conference ticket because they did it virtually this year to Tom Ferry's Success Summit. And it's a 2 or 3 day convention that is all, I went ahead and paid for the package that gives us the recorded replays of all the sessions and the breakouts. So I wanna maybe make that available. Maybe we can watch it, parts of it as a group, or you guys can look at what the agendas are and pick a few things that you wanna see. Maybe we can break up in groups and kind of have a few people tackle some different topics and then get some nuggets out of it and then come back together and share it. And then obviously if it's something that interests you more, you can jump in and watch the topics again. But really, really good stuff. You know, I'm a big convention fan of going and learning from outside of our area. So I thought it would be a really good opportunity to bring this to everybody here, since they have it once in a lifetime virtual this year. So I'll provide that link and you guys can go on and see the agendas, and then maybe we can do a couple little breakouts ourselves and dive deeper into some of the topics that they had in their Success Summit. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. And then just a quick housekeeping reminder, I will be out of the office starting this Thursday, 6 a.m. for about a week. I'm not even supposed to be on the phone or a computer. So if you have anything you need drastically now, get to me before Thursday morning. Otherwise, I'm going to be very, very limited in my abilities to be available, especially the first few days, because I'll be on medication, so who knows what, I'll tell you. So don't call me. It won't be good, might not be good. So yeah, definitely I'll be out for a week as far as like off the radar. And then another following week is going to be touch and go, depending on, how I feel, that kind of stuff. But I won't be in person for probably the rest of the month, most likely, close to the end of the month at least. So don't set any virtual appointments for me or real appointments for me to jump seat with you guys for at least 2 to 3 weeks after Thursday. So keep that in mind. But definitely will be available for you after, by phone and text and email again after probably, I want to say the 17th-ish. That gives me a week of downtime, and then I'll be able to chat with y'all. Angela threw out a multiple offers Google spreadsheet. I don't know if you guys saw it this weekend in Slack, but that's something definitely look at. I know Shannon Rivers had provided one a few weeks ago too, but I like the idea of it being live, like Angela said, because it's interactive with the client. So maybe get familiar with that, because if you're lucky enough to get a listing soon, you'll probably have multiple offers on it. So I think that was a really good tool that you spent time putting together that everybody can benefit from. So make sure you jump on and see that. And you got anything to say about that I'm not touching on?
No, it was just that certainly there's, when you start to get into the heat of getting a lot of offers, and especially if you're trying to negotiate those sort of as they come through too, there's just a lot of moving pieces and parts, and that kept it really smooth and, kept me on top of it, so I wasn't dropping balls places.
Yeah, I like it, and I like that that the client can jump in and see the highlights of everything too, because when there's that many offers going on, like, it's hard to go sending them all the offers, and they're going to be confused and not, they're going to lose track. So I like that it was broken down for them. So thank you for doing that. Also, speaking of me being out, that means I need some collaboration through the month of September. So I would like to have a couple of you maybe take on the Tuesday morning meeting, so everybody doesn't just scatter and not come because I'm not there yelling at everybody to come. So if, you know, a couple of you guys could take a topic or find something that you find interesting, and then bring it to the meeting on the next couple of Tuesdays, that would be great. So I'm gonna reach out and see who will raise their hand and commit to it. So think about that now. It would be the meeting of the 15th and the 22nd. And if I remember correctly, don't we have HSA coming next Tuesday, the 15th, Kendall?
I think so,
Is that a yea or a nay? I can't hear.
I
I'm
think so.
looking, yes. Yes.
Okay, so definitely come for that, guys. That's really, really important because there's always a lot of confusion with the home warranty plans. And, you know, they are an insurance company. There are stuff that they're not gonna cover. Every insurance company's idea is to try to not pay for something if they don't have to. So that's the case with any insurance that you're gonna have. But if you learn the policies in and out, then you're gonna better be able to equip your client with this as a tool, and then also not get yourself into hot water by promising too much with a home warranty plan. So one thing that I found interesting when I was dealing with Brandon's house is I talked about Christy and Rick. The company now kind of combined with American Home Shield and HSA. They combined, so they're under one umbrella, but their plans are a little bit different. So depending on the house, the more we learn these in detail, the better we'll be able to fit our client for the policy plan. So one's gonna have one better, you know, some of it's gonna be better for the HVAC system, and then the other policy is gonna be better for some of the items of maybe the roof or stuff like that. So the more we dive deeper into these, you'll be able to custom fit your buyers and sellers for which plan to put them in, which will be a better value for them and a better service. So please be sure to come to that meeting and come with your questions because they know that stuff inside and out. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, who wants to do a radio show spot this Thursday morning? Don't all scream at once. I will not be available for that one. So I would love to put one of our agents who's been out in the field recently, dealing with what the market's been like. I would love to have you do a spot. It's call in. You don't even have to go to the studio. Your face won't be there. You won't be in front of people. But I would love to hear some stories. People love stories.
My deals are all smooth. Camera can tell some stories.
I don't know.
You what?
Stories I can
Camera can tell some stories.
Everyone got
She
stories?
was writing them down as you were talking.
Nice. All right, well, I am going to be hitting up some of you if you don't volunteer, so don't dodge my calls. Start thinking on some of your stories you could talk about. And then one thing I just wanted to touch on really quickly before Shelly gets there is,
Shelly's here. She is here.
oh, Shelly's here? Oh, hi, Shelly.
She's all the way back. She's waving to you by the window.
Hi, Shell. Good to see you. John's back's been blocking you. Were you there the whole time?
Yes. We went over
Oh, my
that.
goodness.
Yeah, we told you we thought you heard us.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. It was really giving all kinds of noises for a while there, so I couldn't hear it at all. Anyway, so I'm gonna wrap up here in just a few seconds for you, Shelly, but I wanted to touch on real quick, guys. Again, I feel like we're seeing a comeback. We kind of quieted down for a couple of weeks. I don't know if you all felt it, but I was feeling it for just a couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden we started getting pretty busy again. So typically we see this happen the end of August and then going all the way through September into part of October, and then really right around the Halloweenish time, we start seeing a comeback for the holiday season. So I think we're ahead of schedule since we've had all this pent up stuff that put us on pause before. So I expect that we're gonna have a pretty strong fourth quarter. So get your running shoes on, get ready, but also get your faces back out there, because just because you've reached out to people a few times doesn't mean they're gonna think about you when the time comes. It's all about right place, right time. So if some other agent skids in there right in front of you because you haven't been in touch with people recently, they're gonna steal the food off your plate. So make sure you're starting to ramp yourself up and get out in front of people. I saw a couple of articles about marketing and branding, so let me grab that really quickly. Read some highlights to you. All right. So it's about effective marketing and changing times. And the biggest thing that I want to keep reminding you about is what marketing is. So the definition of marketing the simplest sense of marketing is to getting out the word. It can apply to a particular listing or a company identity or yourself as the brand, and it can involve a variety of low and high tech strategies. Skip to the good stuff. The purpose of marketing is to communicate the value of your brand. And remember, we're not just talking about experienced partners brand, we're talking about you as a brand also. So the purpose of marketing is to communicate the value of your brand to your customers and to your prospects. Branding typically is about forming relationships with customers on a deeper level. Marketing, on the other hand, is always expected to fuel sales. Marketing is how you reach out to people and how you connect with them, connect them to your brand that you've crafted. That can include content, websites, it can include mailers. Remember we talked recently about mailers? Don't forget, get that on your radar and let's start getting some stuff in the hopper to get out for mailers. It includes property descriptions, and there's so much that can be done in real estate. Marketing is basically the message you're delivering, while branding is the perception that people have regarding your message. Think about the perception that we put out to a lot of people. What do people assume about us all the time? So I feel like we've really kind of fallen off of getting back in front of people's faces. We were really strong for a while there, but then everybody got busy, and now I don't really see that much coming out of just what I'm monitoring on social media. So what kind of perception is that putting out to your audience? Are you busy? Are you not busy? Are you keeping up to date with the market trends? Are you talking about real estate, or are you putting up just listed, just sold? Because that doesn't capture people's attentions. We've got to go a little bit deeper with that. And then I jumped over to another article, and I kind of piggybacked on this. It said your brand should breed trust. It should speak the truth and communicate value. So what value are you communicating in the type of posts and type of messages and emails and text messages that you're putting out? That's why I can't go back to, I hate on typical real estate agent marketing, because it's really just look at me, look at our houses, and it's not really creating value for the consumer that's looking at those things. Unless it's an exact house that they're looking for, most people are just gonna kind of slide right past it. So the just listed, just sold are good to pepper in because it looks as though you are moving real estate. Because we all know there's agents out there that, I mean, it looks like they're doing $100 billion worth of business a year, and they're doing like 10 houses a year. So, but you would never know that by the perception based on what they're putting out there on to the public. So that type of posting has its place, but you also need to be peppering in that you are an expert in your industry. So how much do you know truly about this industry? What do you know about title, survey, insurance, like all of that stuff? You've got to be talking about the full round around buying and selling, and not just buying and selling. That's where things like Adrian, the Adrian at Home, or whatever your Facebook site is, bringing in decorating. And now, right now, everybody's trying to decide, am I moving or am I going to remodel my house? So that's good topics to talk about. First time buyers, Kayla, those are good topics to talk about right now. Renting versus buying, doing mortgage calculators and showing, how much money people are wasting. And not just Kayla, you guys are first time buyers too. But are you speaking the truth? Are you communicating value? So think about that every time you put something out. And I've said to other people before, anytime someone asks you a question, that's usually a topic for for a post. Because if one person has that question, you know 10 other people probably have that same question. So it's really just keeping your radar up and making a note every time you hear something that's like, oh, I didn't think about that, because you typically answer that same question all the time. Why are you answering that same question all the time? Because everybody has it. So use those things as post ideas. How are you keeping top of mind? That's part of this article too. That is marketing and branding of your brand, of you, is keeping top of mind. So it's being in front of people's faces. They have very short-term attention spans and short-term memory. So you're not over flooding if you're putting up a lot of information. Just change the information up a little bit, because you're going to connect with a different audience each time. Then it goes to, who are you trying to reach? What is your niche? Who are your people? You need to communicate on their level. So in other words, if you've got a younger audience, you're going after first-time buyers, that type of thing, your platform is going to be more Instagram. It's going to be educational. It's also going to be, you know, some eye candy. Whereas if your market is a different avenue, you're going to have older audience, you're going to find a different way to talk to them. So figure out who your audience is and how you're going to connect them. And then lastly, what is the value you're providing? So I've had to sit down several times in the different classes and certifications that I've been taking, and you've got to write your value proposition. You've got to write your elevator speech. You've got to have your mission statement, all that kind of stuff. And it's hard because you think you know, but we say the same things over and over, and a lot of times it doesn't mean anything to the consumer. So I'm going to challenge you to do that little homework for yourself, is write a couple of paragraphs. What is your typical thing if you're at a party, or, you know, the reason why they call it an elevator speech is you step on an elevator and somebody sees something like, oh, you in real estate? And you're like, yeah. I mean, what's your response right then and there before the doors open? How are you going to connect with that person so that you have a contact now to go into your follow-up plan and possibly sell them real estate? So what is your speech? What is your value proposition? When you go on a listing appointment, you know, what can you tell them about you? What makes you different? What's going to set you apart from everybody else? That is always a question that comes up on a listing appointment. And if you go and have nothing, then you're probably not walking out with that listing. So take the time to do the homework and come up with some powerful short statements about yourself that is going to stick. With that being said, the master of marketing herself is Shelly Clark. She's always putting information out there. She does a lot of what I just talked about, and she's very knowledgeable about her industry. So, without I have Shelly to the platform, and let's talk about all things survey, Shell. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Kathy. So I apologize, I did not realize we were doing Zoom and live, or else I would have sent everything digitally, so I'll send it to Kindle and get everybody out.
Yeah, Shelly, I'm
Is
gonna.
this the best place to stand?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, let me get you in here. It'll pick up the sound. So you're gonna be streaming on Zoom and recording on Zoom.
Right. Oh, the back of my head's a little hot. I'll have to get that part colored. Okay, so I'm here. My name's Shelly, for those of you who don't know me. My husband and I own Cardinal Surveys. We've been in business 18 years. I don't know, surveyed 25,000 properties, that kind of stuff. So I am just going to give you guys resources, because really what it all comes down to, like Kathy said, your clients expect you guys to know everything there is to know about every little detail about this entire process. And so I want to give you guys the resources to use to answer their questions, but without making sure that you guys might know the answer. So first thing I have in here for you is a cheat sheet. And it's your cheat sheet to use with the client. So as you're sitting down talking about the survey, there's two choices on that work order form that they're supposed to pick from. These are the two choices. This gives you the pros and the cons of each one. So instead of you saying, oh, I think you should get this, or oh, you should get this, or maybe we shouldn't get one, or maybe there's already existing one, this is going to let them read and make the decision as to what they think is going to fit their needs the most. I will tell you, obviously the market changes. And with that, surveying needs have changed also. About 10 years ago, it was very common for people to get what you guys like to call the spot survey, which is the cheaper, less expensive. But actually, it's probably been closer to 15 years ago because I'm dating myself now. But title companies went away from requiring a survey, and they would still give the lender everything that they needed to close. So when they did that, that spot survey lost its purpose because your buyers get nothing except for a bill if they get that spot, or it's called surveyor's real property report. It really is used by the lenders and the title companies to prove that the house is built on the lot. And I know that kind of sounds crazy, but we've actually had 2 instances where the houses were built on the wrong lots. And not only was that happened, it was not new construction. It had been sold 7 times. It was 14 years old. Like, nobody had ever caught it. So yes, they do build houses on the wrong lot. It doesn't happen all the time, but you know Murphy's Law. Like, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna end up happening to you, right?
No, it's gonna happen to Tamara Hill.
Yes. Tamara calls
So
it.
Tamara, do not let people get spots, okay? Really what you guys want to encourage your clients to get, if you're worried about knowing what it is that they're buying, is to get that boundary survey, or what you guys like to call them, we call a stake survey. They call it stakes because we put wood stakes in the ground. But that stake survey or boundary survey gives you the details. So I wanted to give you guys a comparison of what these 2 actually look like, these products look like. So second page in your pack, you've got legal size papers. First one at the top, it says surveyor's real property report. So this is that spot survey where it gives you kind of an overview of making sure that the house is on the lot. This is going to run you probably about $175 to $200 on a standard size lot. What you guys really are going to want to encourage your buyers to get, because it gives them coverage on your title policy, plus it also allows them to know exactly what they own, is this boundary survey. Now there's 2 pages to the boundary survey. The first page is the puzzle piece page, which is what I like to call it, because it shows you how all of the properties fit together. But if you flip that over, it gives you mega detail. Because it's going to show the same thing that that spot showed, except for that it's also going to show fences, landscaping, maybe mow lines if somebody's mowing property that isn't theirs. But this is what shows you exactly what it is you're buying, what is on your lot, and what is not on your lot. All right, so how many of you guys have a fenced-in backyard? Okay, where do you guys mow to?
The fence.
And who mows on the other side of the fence?
Neighbors.
Neighbor does. In this instance, if you only mow to your back fence, there's a whole triangle piece of property that you aren't even maintaining. There's actually a different neighbor who's cutting that, treating it like it's his, mowing it, thinks it's his because it's fenced, because that's the immediate thought you have, oh, it's fenced, I own it, or oh, that yard's fenced, so the neighbor owns that. Well, it turns out this guy is maintaining quite a bit of our property. He'd actually take us to court and file what's called adverse possession, which is where he can take the land from us for free. And keep in mind, when your buyers are buying a home, they're actually not buying the house. Their deed says lot 92. That's what they're buying. And they're purchasing everything on that lot, which includes the house, hopefully, except for Tamara, make sure that, you know, you got that one covered. You know, but it's all about what's on there. So you've got the fence, you've got some extra concrete that's on the side of the house. This is actually built in an easement. You're not supposed to build concrete in easements. This could possibly be an issue for the title company, meaning they might not insure it, which means if the electric company comes through and says, hey, I need to use this land, guess who has to move the driveway out of their way? Your buyer, your owner does. So these are all added expenses that could show up down the road. But the whole point of this boundary is to make it known what they own. So you guys all get, I'm assuming you all get home inspections, correct? How many days do you guys have to get your inspections? 10 by default, right? How many days do you have to get the survey done? 25. The survey is a second inspection. Your homeowner's inspection is pretty much the walls and in, correct? The survey is the walls and out. So if your buyers are questioning, why do I need this? They've already spent all the money that they have. They've already, over purchased. They're a little tight. This is just a second inspection. So if you don't get the inspection, then you run the risk. But if you are looking for an easy way to sell getting a survey to protect them, it's that inspection of everything outside of the home. All right, so as you guys look at this, anytime you see red, I want you to think crocodile hunter on me. Danger, danger! Or, oh, crikey! Because these things in red, these boxes, all mean that there's maybe something there that could be of risk to your buyer. Meaning that a fence is built on the wrong property, or concrete is in an easement it shouldn't be in, or something along those lines. Now, it doesn't mean that it's something that's going to kill the deal. The first thing you should do when you get this back is have a conversation with your title company and ask them, what are the things I need to be worried about? What are the big mountains here versus the little molehills? Because let's focus on getting those mountains fixed. So in this particular example, we happen to have part of our driveway on the neighbor's property. Anybody ever run into this? Yeah, so what do you guys do when that happens? Ignore it. I mean, part of your driveway is on the neighbor's property. What do you do? Well, the first thing is you go run the concrete saw and you cut it off, right? Not ideal, but it is an option. Yeah, get an easement. Get some kind of agreement with the neighbor, whether it's an easement or a license or some kind of use permission, but get some kind of agreement with the neighbor that says, hey, I don't care if your concrete's on my property, but they sign it, we record it, and it makes it so that you don't ever have to worry about removing that from them. If you don't get that document, what happens when you go to sell the house? It's still an issue. And now, not only is it an issue, but it's now your seller's issue. Versus if you're going into this on the front end and you're buying this from someone else and you're within your 25 days, what kind of request can you make of that seller? For them to deal with it, right? Have them go to the neighbor and get the agreement. They're probably already buddies with them. Or what if that neighbor comes back and says, hey, yeah, I don't have a problem signing something, but I want like $500. While on day 24, you make that request, who has to pay the $500? The seller would. However, day 26, guess who's going to pay for it now?
You are, probably.
Probably not the buyer, probably the agent. I mean, here's the deal. We know that, buyers right now, they think they can have the world on a silver platter, right? So just got to make sure that we're dotting our I's, crossing our T's, making sure that we're dealing with issues today so that when you guys go to list their house in 3 years, you don't have those issues to deal with that.
And another thing I want to add too, don't wait till day 20 and be like, oh, my buyer wants a survey. We have 5 days to get it done. Shelly, work your magic. Like, we can't do that, especially in today's market. As busy as everything is, my suggestion is talk to your buyers up front when you're writing the contract. Hey, do you know if you're going to want a survey? And then we have 25 whole days to take care of this matter.
We need about a week. So if you order it from us on a Monday, as long as there's no holidays and it hasn't rained for like 8 days in a row, we'll have it back to you the following Monday. So it's a week turnaround. But you should have it ready to go, and as soon as your home inspections are resolved, get right on the second inspection of the survey. Now, I am a miracle maker, so, you know, if we have to, we can go that route, but I prefer not to,
But
so.
I don't wanna call you every time and be like, hey, can you get one done for me?
Exactly.
Every day.
So do you guys have questions about the two different products that you guys usually see?
One's a piece of paper and one means something.
Correct. Really rough toilet paper. We're the crunch here, you know? Although I got my Sam's toilet paper last week, I was so excited. Okay. Next thing in your packet. This guy here. So I want to just address real quick the use of GIS, realist, aerial photography, all of those kinds of things when somebody's looking at a property versus what's actually happening on the ground. So in this instance, this yellowed out property is the property that we happen to be purchasing. If you look at the backyard, can you guys see where the fence is? It's like halfway up their backyard, right? So when you guys have a property that you're showing that has a fence, be really careful of saying, oh, this is a great backyard, or this is a small. Or, oh, hey, look, your yard probably is where the fence is, because I will tell you, fences are built in the wrong place all the time. Now, this one happens to back to a creek. So maybe our buyers are smart, and they look over the fence and say, oh, these people just didn't clear out, we probably have a bigger yard, but they probably think they own to the top of the creek. Problem is, our lot goes beyond even that, and if you look, it extends to this open field behind us. Can anybody tell what this field is behind us? Yeah. So it just so happens there's a baseball field, and that's a rec center back behind our property. They have bleachers and asphalt and all kinds of stuff that's really close to our property. And actually, if we were one neighbor over, the bleachers will be built on our property. But you don't see that. So you have to be really careful because perception is 99% of what these buyers think they're getting, right? So again, purpose of the boundary survey, if you flip it over, this shows you what the boundary survey report showed. All these little comments are from two different attorneys. Both work for different title companies, but this was their response to all of the potential issues regarding this property. Again, not everything's a mountain. You can usually get things accomplished with either having an item moved or some kind of agreement with the neighbor, or sometimes you just have to run the risk and just know that, hey, this neighbor won't agree to my fence being 6 inches on their property, but they said I can leave it there for now, but they won't put anything in writing. You just know that risk long-term is might have to move it. And if that warrants, you know, a reduction in price because it stresses your buyer out, then maybe that's a conversation you have. I don't know in today's market how well that would go over because everything's multiple offers, but there's a market where that's very powerful. So just an example for you to use with your clients, if somebody says, well, I don't really understand why I should get one, there's this, but the next one's actually even better. It says an article I wrote was published in the Post-Dispatch, says, no boundaries, can you find your own yard? And while you think you should know where your yard is based on mow lines, fences, those utility boxes in the front yard, this article talks about things that you should and should not rely upon. And on the back, I've got a great example of how deceiving a fence can be. Because just because it's fenced in doesn't mean you own it. So you went from having, on the left side, a very rectangular backyard. And it looked like you had plenty of space to put in, you know, that nice above ground pool that you wanted to put in. Get the survey done, you realize, oh snap, my lot is a pie shape, not a rectangle shape. And now I no longer can put in that above ground pool. Now I get to put in the little blue Walmart plastic fishy pool instead. Because not only do I not have a lot of room, I also have a lot of my yard is easement. You can't build a pool on an easement. This is a perfect example of why a boundary survey is important. And it's something you guys can use with your clients. This, by the way, Kindle is on our website under the resources for realtors tab. This example is. And then the last thing I have, because everybody wants to know, I gave you guys our standard price list. This is pretty good for anything quarter acre and smaller. Once you get to a half acre or larger, typically there's multiple buildings, you got more driveways, you've got more woods. So quote those, but this is standard pricing for us so that you have it as a reference. And then on the back, I did put an example of a survey work order form, and while I did put in red for you so you can see where you can request Cardinal Survey, I actually want to talk about the line below it where it says comments. On this form, tell me, where does your name go? Nowhere. How about your company? Nowhere.
Yeah.
So I have no idea who the orders are coming from other than my contact person at the title company. So maybe you guys have a special request, like the buyer wants to be present when we do the survey. If you want to convey that, you tell it to the title company. Hopefully the title company tells the processor. Hopefully the processor remembers to put that in the email that they send to us. If they don't, and they're just going to kind of tell us, you know, as we're getting closer to it, and then they go on vacation, then that message doesn't get passed down. Comments line is for you to use to write in whatever you want to write in. So John Smith wants to be present. Here's his phone number. Shelly, don't jump the lock gate. There's 2 Rottweilers in the backyard. Use that.
Good to know.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe there's a code to get into the subdivision because it's a gated community. Maybe you need the survey back as soon as possible, or maybe you're just not, it takes your title company a couple days to get it to you once they get it. If you want it right away, email a copy of survey to, put your email address in, or put your phone number in. Because if we have a problem, I will guarantee you a majority of our problems happen outside of 5 p.m. and before 9 a.m. Our crews start at 6 o'clock in the morning and they work until typically 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So we're booking the next day's work at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And if I have an issue and I don't know who to contact, then we put it on hold for another day until we can talk to somebody. So feel free to use that comments line to your benefit. All right, so who's got a question? Yes.
Can you build a fence over if there's a storm?
Like a storm sewer or, so here's the deal with easements and fences. Technically, you're not allowed to build anything permanent in nature in an easement area. So permanent in nature means house, concrete, anything that's permanent in nature. A fence. So the question is a fence a permanent object? When you guys tell me, is it a permanent object?
No.
There is no law that says it is or is not. So in my opinion, you build it in the easement. Just know that if they ever have to come repair that line, they may make you take it down. However, in every instance where I've seen somebody for a utility company need to come through and use a line, use a space, they'll take the fence down, do their work, and they will put the fence back up. Now, why would they do that? Because they don't want to listen to us bitch. Because that's what's going to happen, right? Because it's not just 1 yard typically. Usually it's an entire subdivision that they're going through and doing this with. They take all of that fencing down and they don't put it back up, or they send the homeowners a bill. Guess who's calling the crazy guy on channel 4 or channel 5, whatever channel he's on, you know? They don't want that bad press. So typically they'll take it down and they'll put it back up. But just know that there is a risk. I would not, however, put like a concrete pad or anything like that in an easement area. But that's a little different.
So how do you go about having your lot back up to your construction? And there's supposed to be green space between. And Mr. I'm building a nice $500,000 house that's backing up to you, and his fence line goes right up. I mean, literally, there's no green space. How do you approach that, or who what do you do there? Because there's really no like.
There's no recourse. Here's the problem with people buying lots that back up to green space or back up to common grounds, or who take the buyer's word or the buyer's rep's word that says, oh, you own all the way to that tree line. The problem is that is never the truth. It's never the actuality of where your property starts and stops. Now, had you gotten a boundary survey when you purchased it, you would have seen where your property stops, which means somebody else owns that other stuff and they can do anything they want with it.
So do a survey because it's a villa and it's all, so we can't put fences up or anything.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Even if you're getting something that doesn't own land, like a villa, a condo, any of those things, there are free things that we can provide and give to you so that you can have some resources. So one thing would be the subdivision plat. Because on the subdivision plat, it would show where your footprint was of your unit versus how much space is there around your unit. Yeah, if you want it, we have like 25,000 subdivision plats in PDF format. If you guys ever need one, all you need to do is send us the address of the property. We can pull it and send you a PDF. There's no charge for that. But that's one thing. The other thing is if you look at the GIS or look at the assessor's maps, they also can show you what you own within a couple feet. It's accurate enough to get an idea. And then that will give you an idea of who's got the area behind you. But that happens way more than what you would ever anticipate. Especially because a lot of people buy lots based on, what's around them. Yeah, you go from having those great mature trees to all of a sudden your next door neighbor is like literally 50 feet from you. Yeah. Tough pill to swallow. All right, what else? You guys are, Kathy, I don't know if they're like, if I put them to sleep for you or if like there's just no problems. Or if I'm just that good. She's on mute.
You're muted. You're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, hang on.
Down in the hallway.
Honey, you're still muted.
There we go.
There we go.
She's still muted. She's still at the button.
Oh.
No, that was me. Kathy, you're still muted.
Bottom left corner.
Click on Kathy and then the bottom one.
No, you're still muted, sweetheart.
There we go.
How's that?
There we go.
Yay.
All right, yay, okay. No, we definitely have problems, so that is definitely not the case. And why don't you talk about how to reach some of those problems? And the red markings and things that you share a lot of times, Shelly.
Sure.
And then also I've told our agents, I've been encouraging them lately to reach out to you guys directly. If there is something that comes back, to reach out directly and get some clarification from you or the right language to use with the buyer or seller so that, they feel more knowledgeable about what's going on. Because a lot of times they think they feel super lost and it comes back scary when there's red on it and they don't know what to do with it. So, and then also like, what are some of the options? We've talked about, and I know the title company plays into some of that, but just things that you've seen when fences are on the wrong spot or landscaping, because you can do things like get easement agreements or deed part of the property to the other person if nobody wants to mess with it. So if you want to touch on any of that, go for it.
Sure. So if we go back to that original long boundary sheet, the one that has all the fences, why don't we take a look at one of the notes and I'll explain how to read it. Let's start with this one on the far left side. So just so you know, so nobody knows where north is. So we always draw the drawing so that the house and the street are at the bottom and the house is facing the street. So I can say as you're standing in the street looking at the house on the left side or the right side, people know where left and right are. They do not know where north and south, east and west. So on the left side, far outside notes in red, it says subject property concrete. Subject property is us. So that's our concrete located onto adjoining property. Who's the adjoining property? The neighbor, yep, any property that joins up next to us. So it's located onto the adjoining property for a length of 57.5 feet. Okay, now don't freak out because it's not as bad as it sounds. There are 2 red lines coming off of that box. The distance between those 2 red lines is 57.5 feet. If you want to know how far over the property line the concrete is, look at the little number on the line. So in the front, it says 0.6 feet. Do you guys see that? And on the other end of the box, it says 0.9 feet. Now, our property concrete on the neighbor's property, at least we built it crooked, smaller in the front, bigger in the back. Keep in mind, surveyors do not use inches. So this is not 6 inches and 9 inches. If you look on the back of your cheat sheet, there's a conversion chart that shows you inches and surveyor's dimensions. So 0.9 feet is the equivalent of 10 4/5 inches. So almost 11 inches. 0.6 feet, 7 1/5 inches. So we're 7 inches to 11 inches over the property line. So the question is, how big of a deal is that? Well, if your person is buying this property because they love the fact that it's got this extra concrete on the side where they can park their boat or their pop-up camper, an extra foot of width can be pretty important. Again, this is where you can go to the neighbor, have the conversation. Kathy, like you mentioned, you can get those easement deeds. I will say that if they decide to deed the property, like just say, hey, I don't want this 1-foot strip of land, we no longer can just do that by a written document. You actually have to do a new subdivision plat and change and move the line between the 2 properties. That's like a $2,000 expense. Just do an easement, yep, it's gonna cost you, probably the attorney at the title company is gonna be, what, $150? You're gonna have recording fees, which are gonna run about $40. The survey, you have this document, so you can just record this, so you don't need anything additional from the survey company, so there's no additional fee there. So you're looking at $200, $250 to fix it that way versus several thousand if you deed the property. I do know that some title companies now are recommending, instead of giving easements, they're recommending licenses. I honestly don't know the difference because those are legal terms. I think a license is more specific to a single thing. So it would be this fence, but only this fence, so that if you got rid of this fence and put a new fence in, you'd have to put the new fence in on your own property. But there's easement, there's license. Again, you can choose to do nothing. You can choose to go rent the concrete saw, cut it off. Other than that, I don't really know of any other options. Kathy, you know of anything other than those?
No, those are usually the ones that we go to.
Yeah. And here's the thing, your title company can be as creative as they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a legal document between you and a neighbor. So it can be, you know, the neighbor gives you permission, doesn't say what it's for. They can say it's for the concrete. They can say it's for this concrete shown on this drawing. They can be as specific or as generic as they want to be. Obviously, if you're representing the buyer, you want it to be as generic as possible because it just gives you more latitude and flexibility with the use. But if you are representing the person who's giving land away, you want it to be as specific as possible so that they have as few rights as possible. All right, so does everybody understand how to read this now? Okay. And keep in mind too, just because a note is not in red doesn't mean it's not important. For example, on the right side of the property, there's a big long black note that says the subject property fence is located onto the subject property. So that's our fence on our lot, which is really good. But keeping in mind, if you only mow up to the inside of your fence and the neighbor mows up to the other side of the fence, and you happen to have your fence built 1.5 to 2 feet on your property, somebody thinks they own 2 feet of land that they don't own. But that's not an exclusion from your title policy. And that's really what it comes down to, is the more exceptions and the more things that the title company lists out, the less protected your buyer is. But that's part of the reason why you want to get this boundary survey, because if you don't have them list out specifics, then they just say no survey coverage on anything. So then you're not insured or covered at all.
And how long is a survey good for?
How long is a survey good for? Well, by law, the survey is good for as long as the surveyor is alive. So there is no expiration on it. However, most title companies go with the premise of 10 years because of that adverse possession law with 10 years. They won't allow you to use a survey that's more than 10 years old. They won't allow you to use a survey if the company is no longer in business. They won't allow you to use it if changes have been made to the property. They'll make you get a new one. But otherwise, the surveyor is responsible forever. Just for the results that he published. Like, obviously, we can't be responsible for something that somebody does 5 years later. But anything at that point in time, we're responsible for.
And the survey is always needed on new construction. Why?
Do you trust the builder? Honestly, here's the deal. This is the biggest purchase they're going to make in their lives, right? And what are people spending? $250, $300, $500,000, even $150,000. The survey is $400 to $500, and it just gives them the knowledge of knowing what they own.
And I've also heard that when a builder builds a subdivision out, they don't have each lot individually surveyed. Is that right?
So it is a law that within a year, the builder has to come through. Once construction is stopped, they have a year to set all of the property corners. The biggest problem is that nobody waits a year to put sod down. And where do you think the sod guys are going to put the sod down at? Wherever they think the yard is, right? Oh, they see that, that telephone pedestal in the back corner over here, and they see the concrete storm thing over here. So they're just gonna kind of eyeball it and split the houses and, put it to there. Well, usually those utility companies have 10 feet of space to put those telephone pedestals and those concrete areas. If they put them all on one side, then maybe you don't get 6 feet of your yard sodded that you paid for. Or if it's the opposite, maybe there's just a lot of shortages and overages. And Jennifer, to your point, like thinking that you own to the trees and you don't own to the trees, I mean, how disheartening is that? Remember, common ground is not your yard. Yeah. Did I hit everything, Kathy?
I think so. Anybody else have any other pressing questions? There's one in the back.
Doug, correct.
That's Doug in the back right there.
I think this is probably more title company question, but like a high level overview of title survey coverage, and it just basically covers them. Should any like lawsuits come up based on these types of things?
Correct. So for example, maybe you have a fence on your property, and for some reason the neighbor moves in and they take the fence down because they're putting up a new fence, and they move the fence over because that's where somebody told them that they own to. When that dispute comes up, the title company comes to bat for you. Or maybe there's an easement on the property that runs through the corner of the house that makes it so that your house is not insurable because you have an easement running through your garage, and they're telling you got to take down your third car on your garage and only have a 2-car. That easement should show up in title if it exists.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, the title company will go to bat for you and protect you. Here's the thing, it's like any insurance. You hope to God you never need it. Right. But ultimately, our ultimate goal is to make sure that house is on that lot and not built in an easement. Yeah. And even if the house is built on the easement, there are things you can do, but it's definitely something you want to do before you take ownership, not afterwards. Great question. And then title insurance, make sure that you can legally own it without anybody else having any interest in owning it. So it gives it so that that property is yours and the value is with you. Nobody else has a say in having any part of the value of the land.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep in mind, we work very closely with the title companies because we want to make sure that we're surveying the property that they think you're buying. And I will tell you that the survey has several times shown that they have their legal description wrong in title, and they almost issue a deed to the wrong property. That happens as well. That's probably only 1 or 2 times a year that happens, so.
How do you get paid?
If something falls through, we don't get paid unless there's earnest money. Here's the deal. It's like anything else. The deal dies. Do you guys get paid? No. I legally, from that form that they sign, have the right to go after them for payment. But here's the thing. For me, it's all about your relationship with that client. Are they going to buy another home? Because if they are, we're going to get that work. And when we have the support of an entire company behind us, we know that that's going to come back. And so we're going to make sure that you guys are taken care of, which means your clients are taken care of. So when that happens, all you have to do is have a conversation with Will or I, and we'll make sure that there's not a bill that goes to anybody. Yeah. Here's the thing. There's a lot of companies that use that as their #1 marketing piece. I don't feel like you should be using me because I won't charge you if something dies. Like, I want you to use me because you think that we're experts and that we provide value and that we have accurate results. That's why I want you to use us.
Assume the deal's gonna die before you can get there.
Right. Right. Yeah. Why invest your time if you're there, right? Okay, anybody else? Got nothing else? All right. All right. Well, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. I do have our card stapled right in here. I know that you guys do not work normal hours, weekends, you work all that kind of crazy stuff. Will, who is my husband, he and I are both licensed and surveyors. His cell number is right in here. Put that in your phone and save it. If you need something, don't hesitate to text us. You guys are only as good as your resources are. We just want to be the resource for you.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Shelly, appreciate it.
Thanks, Shell, appreciate it.
Kathy, I'll make some copies of this, so we've got a couple extras here.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, anybody else have any questions about anything before we wrap for the morning? Yay, nay, maybe. Gosh, you guys are tired from the weekend. All right. Well, I will kiss you all goodbye, and I will see some people tomorrow probably. Dan, is Danny there today?
Yes, yes.
Oh, there's Danny. Danny, we got our appointment still tomorrow, Zoom, right?
Yeah.
All righty, I'll check with you today too to see how Friday went with your, the guy that we met with last week. And Kendall, I will check with you on what we're doing with Sugar Trail.
Conference call at 5.
Conference call at 5. Okay. All right, guys, we'll go have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow.
Bye. See you later.
Bye.
And one with Doug doesn't have the same ring.